Hi everyone, and welcome to the third video in our series on creating pages in an ApostropheCMS Astro hybrid project. As with the other two videos, I'm going to be using our full-fledged Apollo theme. This theme can be used to spin a site up quickly and is a great source of example code for how you can institute or implement your own widgets and pages and such like that. So in the first two videos, we covered page routing, how making a query to your Astro front end delivers that query to the ApostropheCMS backend, which then handles the routing and delivers data and information like what template should be used to display the particular page that's being requested. In the second video, we went into creating simple pages. So just a basic default page, how you structure both the backend, the schema fields that add content to that page, especially the apos area, an area schema field that allows you to put widgets onto the page. This allows your content managers to create very dynamic pages without a lot of template info being imposed upon them. And then we looked at how we then go ahead and create and map that template on the Astro side, on the front end side, to display all that data, to fetch and display all that data that a particular content manager is entering into the CMS. What we're going to talk about today is sort of a specialized page, and that's a piece type page. And this is for displaying a certain type of content in your project called pieces. So what are pieces? So they're reusable content items. So some examples of this would be blog posts, team members, and products. And as we'll jump into, they're managed separately from your page tree. And the important thing to know about pieces is they can be displayed in multiple places throughout your site. For example, you could have a project page that displays the pieces for engineers involved in that project. And then also a department page that uses those same exact pieces to display the engineers that are working in that department. So as we'll talk about more in depth today, however, is you can also display them on specialized page types, piece type pages. And those piece type pages unlike our regular simple page, take two templates. An index page that's going to list multiple pieces, oftentimes all of the pieces of a particular type, but you can also filter those down or display a subset of those. And then a show page template that's going to be for displaying individual pieces when a user clicks through from the index page. So let's take a look at what this looks like on the Apollo side, or excuse me, on the when we spin our site up. So just as background, the Apollo theme has two different pieces. It has an article piece and it has an author piece. And what we're going to be looking at today is the piece page type that displays the articles. So here it's an article page. It's going to display the article piece types. We don't have a separate page for author. Authors are actually displayed within the articles. So let's go ahead and jump over to Chrome. So here is our Apollo project already up and running. I should have pointed out that I have two terminal instances. One is running our backend ApostropheCMS server at localhost 3000, and the other is running our Astro front-end instance at localhost 4321. So this is Apollo with the Apollo theme with the sample data loaded in, and we have a page right up here, Apollo mission blog. This is going to be that index page that I talked about. So if we click through to that, we can see that there's a large blog up here at the top, and then there's a series of blogs down below it. So you could think of that kind of like a featured blog piece, and then some older content displayed below it. If we were to go ahead and click on that read more, that brings us through to the page with the full article on it. Of course, these are a little bit short. Okay, so the main point of this video is going to be piece page creation. So we're not going to look too closely into the actual piece types here, the article and the author piece types. Instead, we're going to focus on the article page. So making an article page, a piece page type that's going to display the article pieces, is much like making a regular page. So you create the actual, in the back end, modules folder, you create a new folder. In this case, we're using the convention of giving it a dash page to indicate that it's a page. And within that, you create an index.js file where we're going to define all our schema fields. In addition, just like making any other type of page, you need to register that page in two places. First, in your app.js. So as you can see here in our app.js, here in the pages section, much like we did with the default page, we also have to register our article page. And then the other place is within our modules folder, within the @ApostropheCMS folder, because we're going to improve a core module. We're going to improve the page module, and we're going to add our new article page to the types array. So this is just going to make that new article page available whenever a user, an editor, comes in and wants to create a new page, along with the default and the home page. That'll be present on the dropdown where they can select what type of page they want to create. Okay, so just like making a regular page, now we have our article page registered. Let's take a look at the content of the index.js file. First off, right here at the top, we're extending, instead of the @ApostropheCMS page type, we're extending the @ApostropheCMS piece page type. Below that, in the options for the default page, we just had a label. Here we're passing two additional options. The first is per page, and the per page is going to control how many articles are delivered in the array of data to the index page when the user calls it up. So in this case, we're going to pass 7 articles per page. So page 1 is going to get 1 through 7. Page 2 is going to get 8 through 14, etc. I chose 7 here. It might seem like a little bit of an odd number, but if you remember on the index page that we looked at, there's like a featured blog article at top, and then 6 layered out below. And so 7 just made sense for the layout that I had. You're going to want to adjust this based on what your end layout looks like. And of course, if you have a lot of blog articles, you can take this number up to 20, 50, whatever you'd like, whatever fits nicely on your page. So the second new option that we have that we didn't have for a plain page is a pieces filter option. This pieces filter option is going to take an array of all of the schema fields from the piece that we want to be able to basically filter our index page to show. So in this case, we're passing in category. That's the name of the schema field. And let's just take a quick look at the article. So if we go over here, we can see there's this category schema field. It's a select field, and it gives choices for news, opinion, feature, review. So what this is going to do is it's going to let us on our index page sort out and display only the articles of a particular category. And if we wanted to, we could pass in other pieces filters. So we're just passing category. Maybe we could, if we had something like featured, we could pass that as something to filter on. So let's just jump back over into Chrome and take a quick look at what that category, or that pieces filter gives us. So if we jump to the main index page, we can see we have this category filter. And then within that, we can switch between the different categories. And this is in preview mode, so it's a little bit jumpy. But yeah, again, if we wanted to, we could add another filter, something like featured. Okay, going back to the article page. So we have our per page, we have our 2 new options here. And then down below, we have some fields. So the fields that are added here, there's going to be several new areas that we're going to add where people can add content to. So we have a masthead, and again, type area. That means that it's going to take widgets, and we're using our get widgets group function that I described in the last video for being able to populate that area schema field with the types of widgets that people can add to this area. So we have masthead, before content, sidebar content, and after content. So these 4 different area fields are going to be displayed onto or added to the page depending on the type of layout that we select. And within the Apollo theme, we have two different sets of layouts that we can select from. So we can select how we want our index page laid out, so the page that's going to display all of our blog articles. And there's three different choices that we have: hero grid, list with aside, and standard. And then we can also choose to change the layout of our show page. So that page that's going to show a single article. And we have three different styles there: full width, magazine style, and minimal. Depending on which of these we choose, actually, I think it's just for the index page. Depending on which of these we choose, these extra areas are going to be added to the page and be available for our content manager to add widgets into, to add new content into. Let's go back into Apollo and then quickly edit the page to see these areas. We can see as here, this is going to be our masthead area, our before content area, and our after content area. So you remember there was 4 of them. Here this particular layout only displays 3 of these particular extra area content addition places. If we go ahead and edit our Apollo mission blog, what we can see is that, again, we have these extra content areas. And we also, as I was mentioning, we have 2 other select fields here in the side rail. The side rail is where we pick what type of page we're going to show. And it displays some other things like the slug, the visibility, whether or not we want it in our page tree, or page tree at all. And then here in Apollo, we have 3 different index page layouts and 3 different article display layouts. So if we change this and say instead we want to list with aside, now we can see that in addition to the 3 that were here before, the masthead, before, and sidebar, we now have an after article section. If we go ahead and save that and take a look, you can see that the whole thing has changed a little bit, right? Now all of our blogs are sequential. We have these 2 content areas on top, this content area after. But now we also have the filters moved to the side here, and we have another area over here to add content into. So for example, you can see adding an ad into a widget for displaying ads into here. And then we have some quick navigation, so we can, if we had a ton of blog articles, we could list our top 6 or 7 here. Back over into our code, and you can go ahead and look in the project at the other layouts and see how they look on the front end. But let's take a look at the actual code for putting together those layouts. So we're going to switch out of our backend, out of our ApostropheCMS project, over into the Astro project. So just close this up, open up our front end. So again, within the Astro front end project, we're going to have most of our code in the source folder. And for our pages, all of the templates for those pages are going to be in our templates folder. Your workflow is going to be kind of dependent on what makes you feel most comfortable. You can choose now at this point to make the new templates that we're going to need to display our index page and our show page, and then map them, or you can map them first. But just like with a normal default page or with the home page, you're going to want to map your new page type to within your index.js. And unlike the default or the home page, you're going to need 2 templates. You're going to need one template for the index page and one template for the show page. And so these, of course, are already created here. We've got them imported, and now we have to add them to our templates component object. So they are here, article page index and article page show. So we're using the module name, article-page, and then we're following that up. We're adding a suffix to that of : index or : show. So again, within a vanilla ApostropheCMS project, you would have a views folder for your article page module with 2 different templates, an index.html and a show.html. Here in this case, we're passing that additional information along to our Apostrophe Astro extension, telling it that when the user navigates to the article page, if they're navigating for the first time, they're going to be getting the index template. And if they're navigating to one of the sub pages, one of the articles listed on the page, they're going to get a show template. And so we're indicating that with this suffix. So I should point out that for the other two pages, homepage and default page, we're actually passing in a default suffix of :page. So that's what that would actually look like if we had to add it. But that's passed in by default. And that's because all of our regular non-piece page types are going to be looking normally in a vanilla ApostropheCMS page or project for a views page.html file. So we're just passing that HTML file name, that template file name, into our mapping. So as I said, you can choose what you're most comfortable with. You can add the mapping here to the index.js first, and then create your two components or your components up here, or vice versa. Okay, I'm not going to go in huge detail to each of the index and show pages, just because it's a lot of code, and I think you can better learn just kind of walking through yourself, but I'm going to hit the highlights. So let's take a look at the index page. So within the index page here at the top, we're importing some things that you would expect. So we're importing the apos area. Remember from the last video, that apos area is going to be a helper to go through all of the widgets added to an area and render those widgets. So it's just a helper for us to get that content onto the page. But we've got a couple of new things coming in here. We've got a set parameter. Set parameters are a way that, or a helper that the Apostrophe Astro extension provides that helps us to pass query parameters from Astro back into Apostrophe and vice versa, so that we can do things like set the pagination or set the filtering on that page. We also have, in the case of the Apollo project, a component that we've made for pagination, how to display that pagination, but I'll talk for a second about where the data for that pagination comes from. And then finally, we have three different layouts that we're bringing in. In this case, they come from the layouts folder, and we have our article layouts. These three different layouts are just going to provide the templating for how each of our different layouts are going to look. So we're going to provide some basic, the basic layout here, but the details are going to come from each of these three individual files that get imported here in the front matter of this page. Below that, we are importing all of our data from the Astro props, our aposData object, and deconstructing it. We're getting our page data. That's going to contain all of the schema field data that the user enters into the page when editing. We're also getting, once again, the user and query. We're not utilizing them on this page, but again, that's going to provide details about who's logged in, whether they're logged in, what permissions they have, and the query is just gonna be a way that we can look at some of the query parameters that are being passed back and forth. Next, we have our new option, pieces filter. That's going to be an array of all of the different schema fields that we might want to filter our pieces for our index page on. That's followed by the pieces object. That's going to deliver a paginated object of pieces. So in our case, we're asking that per page, we're passing 7 pieces. So when we get that array back, we're going to have 7 different, the data for 7 pieces within that object. And then we're getting 2 other things, the current page and the total pages. So this is going to let us set up our pagination. It's going to also tell us, what page of pieces we're currently on. So we can say, oh, we need number 2 or number 3. Okay, and then the last thing here is just a little bit of JavaScript for setting up our pagination and setting basically our query parameters onto the page so we know what page of parameters we're looking at. Okay, so that's the front matter. So looking below the front matter, we're setting up a wrapper here for our content with a container, passing in some just some Bulma styling that will help us to make the page responsive. We're passing in a page title, and then we're using standard Astro templating to change or to display all of our different areas, all of our different extra areas. So all of the layouts are going to get the global masthead, so we're passing that in here, independent of what layout we're going for. Next up, we're just looking at our pieces filters and getting that set up. and being able to output those onto the page so that people can select from them. Below that, we're adding the before content area. This one also is present on all of the pages, so we're just defining that. And then now we're getting into our layout specific output onto the page. So we're saying that if we look at our page, if the index layout schema field is equal to a hero grid, then we want to output this particular component, and we're passing in the pieces. We're passing in some other information about how we want the lower area set up and some class information for the hero image. Alternatively, if the index layout is set to list aside, then we're going to pass in this component. And again, we're passing in data that we deconstructed in the front matter to it, things like pieces or width of different parts of that content. And you can look more closely at the code of those layouts to see what we're passing in and how it impacts the overall markup. And then finally, standard layout. And again, we're passing a different component with that different amounts of data to that particular layout. Next, we have an after content. This is present in all of the areas as well, or excuse me, all of the layouts as well. So it's added directly here in this main index page. So the aside, the fourth area, is going to be added by this conditional index layout of list aside. And you can see we're passing it in here that the sidebar area is going to be equal to the page.sidebar content schema field from our page. And then lastly, we're passing in, or we're creating our pagination using that pagination component. We're saying we're only going to display it if there's more than one page, and we're passing in the current page and the total pages, as well as the current URL that Astro is displaying. So basically just standard Astro doing some conditional display of different components onto the page depending on what the data passed back from ApostropheCMS shows. And then we have a style section down here. Okay, maybe we'll take a quick look at one of these layouts. So going back up here, you can see import hero grid from this layouts. So if we just open that up, this is going to be kind of just like any other page, even though it's a component, page template, even though it's a component that's in the layouts. We're going to get the apos area as a helper for processing the area information that it has within the layout. And in this case, we're also importing some image helpers that we've created for the Apollo project. So get attachment URL, source set, a focal point. This allows the images to be responsive to deliver the best image to the front end based on browser size. It also allows, if your image is getting cropped because of the size of the column it's going into, you can set a focal point that will keep a certain area of the image centered within your newly cropped image. We're also importing our article filter component that we created, and that's just a little thing to display those filters. And we're grabbing, again, some data. In this case, we've already deconstructed the data and passed it in, so we can just go with our Astro props that have gotten passed over. And we're getting the array of pieces that we want to display. We're getting our grid columns and some extra class image. Up here, we're just using our image helpers to grab the images, the hero image that we want to display for the page. We're also we're checking the URL in order to get the category, if there is a category that's been added to the page, so that we can output the correct things. And then this is just a really simple display. We're displaying the very first piece in this big hero section up top, and then down below, and the author, and then down below we're looping through the rest of the pieces to show their title and such like that. So again, you can kind of walk through here and see the exact details. This is going to be something that's going to you're going to encounter in any type of Astro project. It's not specific to an apostrophe Astro project, except for the helpers, the apos area, the image helpers, and what data we're filtering out or deconstructing from the Astro props. All right, let's take just one last quick look at the show, or one last bit of code here, the show page. In this case, it's a little bit more simple because we're not having to loop through a whole thing of pieces. We're importing 3 different layouts. Again, remember, there's that select dropdown that allows us to select different layouts. We're getting some data from the aposData prop. We're getting the page data that's going to give us the specific information added to the article-page, as well as the the data for the individual piece that the user has clicked on to come over here into the article show page. And then down here, basically all we're doing is just taking that piece, passing it over to the layout of that's been selected up here to output, and that each of those layouts are going to have the particular markup that we want for that piece. I'm realizing now that I didn't cover well when looking at the index pages how a user gets from the index page over into the individual show pages. So how this piece gets delivered over to the show page, and there's the decision made to route to the show page. So to best show this, rather than going to the article index page template, let's go to one of the article layouts. So we'll look at, I guess, the hero grid. So with the hero grid, basically you have this large hero at the top, and it displays the hero image. It uses the helpers to get the original attachment URL, as well as a size for that particular image. I'm going to make a separate video to talk about these helpers. It gets a source set, displays out that image, displays some information about the width and the height, so that the browser can preload or set aside space for that image. Then below the figure, it has basically the title and the excerpt of the piece, and the title is actually wrapped in a link, and you can see that right here. And basically, since this is looking at the hero piece, that very first piece in our array, it's grabbing the very first piece is 0, and from that, it's extracting this underscore URL. An underscore in ApostropheCMS indicates that it's a computed value. So what this is doing basically is figuring out what page a particular piece would be on, figuring out what the actual slug is that should be appended to the existing index page URL in order to navigate over to that particular piece. And so that's just setting this URL to be the correct URL for the show page for this piece. We can see we're also doing that same thing down here. We have a read more button, and that's also getting the same piece and the computed URL for that piece. So that's how we navigate from the index page over into the show page. So at that point, when we do navigate to that individual show page, ApostropheCMS is smart enough to deliver to the aposData the correct piece information. So it's going to, instead of delivering an array of pieces, deliver just that one piece. Okay, so that's it for this particular video. We've gone through how to register a piece page type in the backend. So we create our module, create our index.js, register that in our app.js file, as well as registering it in the core @ApostropheCMS/page module. On the front end, we've gone through how we need to map our new page type in the index.js file, as well as create templates. Although we did kind of rush through the code for the templates, the Apollo project is there so that you can walk through that at your own pace. And basically, it's just some straightforward Astro code where we are grabbing out the data that we need to display and then using conditional markup to display that data out onto the page. Going forward in this project, we are next going to look at widgets and how to create a widget file. It's going to follow a lot of the same patterns as for pages, but have some differences as far as how we can get client-side hydration, client-side JavaScript. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video.